Our setting? The majestic Colorado High Country, where I'll be surrounded by horses, cowboys, big sky, and lots of photographic opportunities. We are following the Sombrero Ranch Great American Horse Drive. It's fast, dangerous, and one of the most exciting horse adventures you can hope to photograph. My challenge? To try and visually capture the story and essence of this unusual and exciting event. I've traveled the world for over 40 years, creating advertising and artistic images of what I consider one of the more interesting and magnificent animals in the world, the horse. I've met a lot of interesting horses and the people that dedicate their lives to finding, breeding, and caring for these incredible animals. Join me as I travel the world, meeting old friends and making new ones, while I attempt to tell and capture the stories of lives and experiences with my camera. I'm Scott Trees, the Image Maker. In 1876, Colorado was granted official statehood, making it the Centennial State. Colorado played a significant role in the development and growth of the western frontier. This is Colorado High Country, open plains and rolling hills, with occasional mountain peaks dotting the horizon. Anyone interested in the great American outdoor western experience would be well suited to visit this remarkable corner of the state. It is also home to the largest privately owned horse ranch in North America, the Sombrero Ranch. Early morning light on the ranch reveals scenes of horses warming to the first rays of sun and cowhands rising to the smells of fresh coffee and bacon. There's a permeating sense of calm while both horses and riders prepare for the coming long day of work. The Sombrero legacy was started in 1958 by Rex Walker and his late brother-in-law, Pat Mantle. They started with 16 head of horses, and they fed them out to dude ranches throughout the Southwest. And today, their current level of horses is 1,000 head.
The original ranch here was 8,000 acres.
8,000 acres.
But
now you said it's about 15,000?
About 15. We've added quite a bit to it since then, you know. I'm kind of like the old rancher. I don't want all the land, just what's next to me.
Right. During this drive, cowboys, cowgirls, and hundreds of horses travel 62 miles from the BLM winter grazing pastures to the spring ranch, just as it was done when the horse was critical to the survival of man. I've traveled the world and have literally photographed thousands of horses. And in 4 decades of photography, I have never experienced anything like Sombrero. My challenge as a photographer is, how do I capture this spectacle and tell this amazing story with my photographs? While the Sombrero Ranch is known and respected for their horses, the people that work on the ranch and with the horses are equally important to the success of Sombrero. There's a great strength of character that surrounds the men and women that work the Sombrero herd. There's also a great sense of respect for each other and the horses in their care.
Real cowboys are very, very hard to find. And a lot of these kids that we started, we just trained them. They didn't know hardly which end of the horse to set on. And some of them are true ranch kids, but the majority of them come from, our summer help all come from colleges just about. And we get a lot of kids that come out from equine schools.
The cowboys and cowgirls that work with these horses are real deal, no-nonsense kinds of people. A favorite subject of this shoot is Christy Kramer. An experienced horsewoman in the hunter and jumper world, Christy transforms into her true cowgirl self for Sombrero, and is also responsible for the safety of many of the guest riders that join in to participate in the drive.
Getting to be out in this open country and being out with the cowboys and just getting a new take on how to work with the horses has made such a big difference. You know, I think what's really challenging is making sure everyone's safe. You know, keeping track of however many riders there are and making sure their horses are riding good, making sure their saddles aren't falling off, and that's challenging. It's also quite peaceful. You know, getting to ride and you have a mile's worth of horses in front of you on a straight line. There's nothing like it.
For me, one of the gentlemen in clothing, attitude, and spirit that embodies the historical tradition of the Old West is Terry Humphrey.
Horace was almost the machine that built this country. He was a vehicle, he was a car, he was a truck, you know, he was a transportation element, you know, to get our logs, our water, our supplies all over the place. I mean, the horse was it.
The horse gave man the power to be who he wanted to be. Today, it is men like Rex Walker that keep this spirit alive.
Well, it was the only means of transportation. You either pulled a wagon with them or rode them or packed them. I'm amazed that the people don't understand that the horses was how people got around in the big cities. They were a treasure to have. The historical use of the horse in the West means a lot to me, and I want to keep that tradition going.
So I get a nice balance between my backlight. I can put a lot of light in there. The first part of the week while I'm here, I head up a workshop sponsored by the Equine Photographers Network. We have students come in, the ranch brings in a lot of horses for us to use, and I'm able to set up different kinds of shots with a lot of horses and a lot of cowboys. So for example, we'll have them bring in 50 head of horses across the water. So this ride over the weekend now is kind of the culmination of that week of having been here in Craig. There's really nothing else quite like this workshop, and for the students it is a once-in-a-lifetime chance to experience photographic opportunities they can't get anyplace else. Photographer Corrine Shippers is the founder of Equine Photographers Network and the key organizer for the Sombrero Photography Workshop.
As photographers, we very rarely see large groups of horses being in such a natural state, you know, and we see horses in show barns and that are preened and primped and coddled, and they don't really live like real horses. And as photographers, we love to document horse behavior and composition with groups of horses, the lines and the interaction and the colors and everything like that. And so coming here, you kind of see the way horses have lived over thousands of years. They live in herds of horses over the winter, and they're very well-adjusted horses. You don't see any of the habits or behaviors that you see in horses that are living in stalls all their lives. It felt good for me to see that horses can still be living this way and be treated this way, and it was really a revelation.
For this annual Sombrero Drive event, they also have guest riders that pay for the opportunity to participate and ride with the herd while it's moved. This drive requires a lot of behind-the-scenes planning and preparation on the part of the staff.
Specifically to the horse drive itself, there's an incredible amount of work that's going on in here to make the one machine run. And it has to be that way. There has to be communication, there has to be direction, there has to be purpose with what you do, there has to be a consciousness towards doing the best job that you can do, you know, to make this thing work.
With this many people involved, one person needs to be in charge, and that person is Chuck Hummel. It is his responsibility to oversee all of the staff riders and the guest riders in their care. He makes sure everyone is ready for the ride, and the safety of all riders and horses is of paramount concern.
You know, when one of us gets hurt, we're always there to pick the other one up, help them out. And when, you become a team, you become a family. It's like having another brother or another sister.
The cowboys are so authentic, and they're real cowboys. They live the life, and that really comes through in the photos that you can get here.
When we get started out in Browns Park, there's no fences, there's no containment area, and these horses are used to being winter pastured and fed, and a horse is a creature of habit, and so they're going to want to turn back and go to that place that has become comfortable to them. So it's quite an effort on everyone's part to form a perimeter, if you will, a back line that pushes, a front line that controls, how fast the horses are going, and people that flank them to keep those horses from winding back around and going back, the other way. A horse is, an animal. There's no verbal communication there, so you've got to learn to read them, to kind of, figure out what they're thinking and how you have to react to that, to get them to partner up with you, to do something.
This is the morning gather. We've just gotten a few horses in this morning. They've been gathering horses since 3:30 this morning from about a 10,000 acre pasture. They're going to bring them in through this gate right here and let the horses come in and settle. Once they're settled, they'll let them go out these gates, and that's when the excitement begins. After having roamed free for the entire winter, the horses aren't exactly in a hurry to be contained in a corral. This gathering process takes several hours to finally corral all of the horses and get them settled before opening the gates and starting the drive. You can tell there's a lot of horses behind us, 480. I know that because I counted the legs and divided by 4. In order to keep up with the herd once it starts moving, we're in official sombrero access trucks that allow us to move through and with the herd. Some of the students that were in the workshop are also in my truck with me. I'm trying to give them an idea of what I'm thinking about when looking for shots, talking about the light, lens perspective, and doing what I can to try and help them get prepared to get better pictures of this event. Here I'll shoot 100 to 400 and just kind of focus on them as they get in there, and then we're going to, when they get about that telephone pole, we'll get Stacy in the car and start taking off, and then the fun begins. Now if we could just get some sunlight on them. Sun, move that way, that way. Come on, sun, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. I think they waited till the cloud came out and then turned them loose, but hopefully it'll move away. Yeah, no, they're coming. It started. It is officially started, guys. For most of these horses, this is not the first time they've made this journey from their winter pasture to the spring ranch, and they know the routine well. After being gathered into the main corral and relaxing a bit, a restless excitement begins to permeate the air and the herd. When the horses first come out of the corral is a critical time. As herd animals, horses follow a leader, which means the mounted riders need to get out in front of the herd immediately. Because there's a lot of pent-up energy in the herd, getting them in control can, at first, be a challenge. Another real concern for a breakaway like this stems from the fact that about 5 miles from the drive start, the herd has to narrow in and cross this bridge. If the horses are coming over at too fast or an uncontrolled speed, it can create a potential danger for the horses, riders, and spectators that have gathered to watch this event. For the horses that broke away, the lead riders had to race them at a dead run in order to catch up, get ahead, and try and slow them down. They were finally able to get out front and slow the breakaways a bit, but they were still going at a much faster pace than desired as they came down the hill towards the bridge. The fact that there were fewer horses in the breakaway herd, combined with the fact that they'd finally slowed a bit more by the bridge crossing, made for a much safer yet still exciting crossing. 10 minutes later, the remainder of the herd followed at a slower pace. This made for some great shots as the main herd and riders made their way to and across the bridge. The sun had finally revealed itself from behind the clouds for better light, and there was a lot of dust being generated by dry conditions and the large number of horses. Once the horses cross the bridge, they come to an area where they make their first stop for rest and, more importantly, water. The first major obstacle of the drive is over, and all the horses and riders are safe. This first rest break is important for horses and riders, especially after the exciting breakaway that just took place. This is a calming time where the horses that might have separated from their friends and companions during the drive find one another. When the herd gets moving again, it's at a much calmer pace. The most dangerous part of the ride for today is over, and the herd and riders are starting to get in a cooperative rhythm for the journey ahead. Just about anywhere you look, there's a shot of some sort. For the workshop and drive, Nikon Professional Services makes available a variety of camera bodies and lens for students to use. For this shoot, I was using two Nikon D4 bodies fitted with zoom lenses, one with a telephoto 100-400 and the second with the wider 24-70. This combination gave me the ability to shoot longer, tighter shots or wider vistas. When the sun plays peekaboo as it has today, you have to be willing to adapt to the conditions created by the way the light is shining or not. This is very important to photographers as light is our paintbrush, and you have to modify your approach and adapt to the available lighting conditions. The sheer volume of horses on this ride can be overwhelming, but it can make for some incredible images. Combine that with the dust generated by a herd of this size and the control riders as they interact with the herd, and the potential opportunities multiply. Clouds continued to remain a constant presence, and as the day wore on, the cloud cover started getting heavier and darker. For that reason, I changed my cameras to a monochrome setting. When I shoot in black and white, I think, and now thanks to digital, I can see in terms of black and white. I prefer this to shooting everything in color and changing it later in post-production. And one of the elements I enjoy when shooting black and white is its intimacy in capturing the rawness of a subject, and that certainly held true for today's drive. My love of photography began with black and white film, and in my experience, today's kind of lower, less contrasty light, combined with the clouds in the background, rising dust, and lighter horses, could make for some interesting results. It's amazing to see a drive like this with so many horses together at one time. It isn't just the sight, but the sound as well. With this drive, the sound of what's going on is as big an experience as what is happening visually. If you love horses, you can't help but be moved by seeing this many horses together in one place and at one time. On day 2, the early morning sun shows a well-rested herd relaxing in the warmth of the morning sun. The light is beautiful and everyone involved is well-rested, and once again, the excitement of the upcoming drive permeates the air. Once again, riders start rounding up the herd in preparation for the day's drive. The weather is much more favorable today, the previous day's storm having passed through, and we are greeted with white clouds against a deep blue sky. It doesn't take long for the herd to come together as they prepare for the start of day 2. Since the very first Sombrero Drive, the town of Maybelle, Colorado has been a gathering point for families, and everyone in attendance shares a common bond of enjoying the spectacle of this large herd of horses. This is a family affair, and the mood is festive and celebratory, as they watch the herd parade through on their way to the first rest stop of the morning, which is just on the outskirts of town. Okay, it's day 2. Horses are tired, riders are tired. We're about 2/3 of the way through on the way back to the ranch. As you can see, they're going through a highway. I've got some good shots. I'm always looking for one more possibility. I see them coming, I gotta get going. The last part of this drive is right down Old Highway 40. Whenever possible, the herd is off the pavement and on the dirt shoulders. But there are places where they have to just go straight down the highway. Still, the goal is for the out front riders to be the leaders for the herd and the outside riders to keep them contained and in control. When I see something like this, I mean, this is a magnificent shot with all these horses spread around here. The challenge is getting a wide shot and still being able to see the horses, so that's the challenge. So I think what's gonna happen is they go down this road. I've got a nice lead in, ooh, thunder. I've got a nice lead in going down through that water there, and I think I can get a nice wide shot as they go at a diagonal through the shot and get something kind of interesting. I continued following the herd down the road, and when the horses hit a wider shoulder area off the road, it was a great opportunity to get in the middle of the herd and look for some shots as the horses moved around and past me. It won't be long now before they hit that final mile stretch of road that leads into the Spring Ranch paddocks and pastures, and a well-deserved rest. After 2 long days and 62 miles of travel, the herd finally arrives to the main gathering paddock. Even though tired, the horses that have been in the drive before know this is the end and pick up the pace as they make that final push down the road and into the paddock opening. Once again, they have to narrow in as they come running through the gate, crossing the finish line. As the herd begins to calm, this is a great time for me to mingle amongst the horses. I have a lot of experience with horses and read them well, and do not encourage anyone that doesn't have this experience to try it. But I find this to be a great opportunity to interact with the herd and get interesting shots of their body language and interactions. The nonverbal language of the horse is rich in content if you just take the time to learn it. Well, this is it. This is why we do it. I can't help but get moved by this because it's pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. This is truly one of the more incredible spectacles that I've had the opportunity to photograph, and I must say that in all of my years of shooting, it's the one annual event that I look forward to the most. See you next time on The Image Maker.